Welcome to Our Time. Janice is not here, so I am, well, telling you what's happening on this episode of Our Time. If you're ever called to hospital or taken to hospital unexpectedly, obviously very traumatic, well, we're going to try and ease some of that trauma for you. We'll be looking at the Care Alert range and also a very talented Australian singer, Teresa Del Gennaro, will be singing a marvellous song for us, one we'll all recognise. Anyway, now it's over to Malcolm.
It's my great pleasure to introduce to you the Green Chanteuse, Teresa Del Gennaro. Well, no, I should say it with the proper accent. Say your name with the proper accent.
Teresa Del Gennaro.
So she's Irish, because she's wearing green. No, Teresa, it's just great to have you on the show. You had a fascinating career because you won the inaugural Cabaret Festival. Here in South Australia, we have the Cabaret Festival in the middle of each year. And at the very first year, they decided to give an award to you. Why?
Because I was up and coming performer in Cabaret, and they thought they saw potential in me, and they helped guide me to create a career in that direction.
But you're a graduate of Flinders Drama Centre here in South Australia,
yes.
And you also won an award there. You're an award winner, a professional award winner.
Yeah, so I was lucky to get the State Theatre Scholarship that year as well.
It's the Delco Award.
A Delco, yep. Yes. And I found that throughout my acting training, I mean, I always loved singing, but through the acting training, they also had singing training and voice training, and I discovered that I could sing. And and it's been great because in the last 14 years, when there's no acting work, there's singing work, and when there's no singing work, there's acting work. So that's been really fabulous.
Well, I first saw and met you when you portrayed Muriel Matters, and a lot of people don't realise, but here in South Australia, the leader of the women's movement, his name was Muriel Matters, and she went to, well, you tell the story.
Yeah, well, she went to, she was actually an actress herself, and she went to England, and the women's movement here in Australia was actually quite good. Women were already voting. And
we had the vote here before they did in Britain.
That's right. And so when she went to Britain as an actress and was performing, and she realised that, you know, that there was no voting to be had by women, she became very involved in creating speeches and performing.
And dropping leaflets from hot air balloons.
That's right. And she was...
What an extraordinary woman.
Correct. She was very creative.
Chained herself to Parliament House. And,
yeah.
Well, you played her on the centenary, was it?
It was the centenary of when she had come back to Adelaide and spoke at the town hall about her experiences back in Britain. And so 100 years later, we did the performance in the town hall on the...
And you looked just like her. It was actually, it was extraordinary. It was an extraordinary performance, and I think it brought to the public's attention somebody that historically we knew very little about, and I didn't even know there was a society remembering her and for all of the good work she'd done.
Yes, and they've recently put a documentary together as well. And I do believe a film may be in the pipeline.
Well, it's probably, it's certainly a very important subject, I think, because it really gave equality to both sexes.
Yeah.
And when I say that, it wasn't just men, but it made women that got the vote, but it made men think of women differently, I think.
Correct, and there were a lot of men that were involved in the women's movement, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. They think it was just women, you know, but there were men. There were men in Parliament House. You know, also trying to
make it happen.
Heard. Yeah.
Well, speaking of movement, so when you won the Cabaret Award, that took you to
Sydney. It took me to Sydney, and so then I went there and I did some training, and I went to the Cabaret convention there and learnt a lot. And then I came back, and then with the scholarship for acting took me to Sydney again, and then I came back, and then while I was over there with the scholarship, I found an agent in Sydney, so then I went back, and then from there I went overseas.
Well, you worked in cruise ships in Europe.
Yes, and the South Pacific as well.
Oh, in the South Pacific.
Yeah, I started in the South
Pacific. Ended
Pacific.
up in London?
Yes.
And then came home, which is lovely that you came home, because you've done some absolutely lovely work here. And you really should be seen more around Australia because of how good you really are. But Teresa doesn't always look like this, as I was saying. When I first saw her, she looked completely different with the wig and everything else. But you're doing a tribute tour to...
Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli, but I'm not impersonating them, so I will look like this.
In green?
In green.
Okay.
And there's a costume change for the Liza segment.
Well, they're quite different ladies, I guess. But again, they have been two women that have actually moved show business around too, because you only have to use the word Judy or Liza to know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
So what are you doing in the show? Is it just a story of them? Is it just their songs?
It's both. It's and also about their relationship together. So it's a little bit of a showcase of their life at a glance. The songs that were quite instrumental in making them who they were, but also songs that are pertinent to their personal life stories.
I suppose that's really what Cabaret, the success of Cabaret, because it's usually about a person or a series of people or events that you can mould a story around and present.
Yeah.
Look, in the future, I expect we'll see you all over the place, because I'm a fan. This lovely lady, Teresa De Gennaro, thank you so much,
Thank
Teresa.
you for having me,
and she's going to sing for us in a tick, so stand by. Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.